This is Tim White, Vice Chairman jetAVIVA, and I'm sitting here with my good friend, Bill Keene, CEO and founder of Keene Wealth Advisors. Thanks for joining me today.
Very welcome.
Appreciate it. It's always good. It's always
very
good.
welcome.
We have known each other and been together on this business journey of ours, Beyond Aviation, for a good 10 years now.
Yes, we have.
At the very least. And it's been a pleasure to be part of that journey with you, with both of our respective businesses. Obviously, aviation is a big part of that in both of our lives.
Yes, it is.
So, what inspired you to get in aviation to begin with?
You know,
That work.
so our firm, Keene Wealth Advisors, helps folks navigate up to and over into retirement and to create inspiring lives for themselves and their families with their financial resources. And so we help people with their, quote, bucket lists, or with the things that they want to achieve and accomplish and experience in their lives. And so I'm constantly coaching others on that. And I realized about 15 years ago that one of my dreams and passions was to be a pilot, was to experience private aviation. From where I started, I grew up with very little financial resources, a lot of insecurity around money. So some of these things that I'm getting to experience in my life today, it's almost hard to believe. I never take it for granted. Not for one day do I take any of this for granted. But I said to myself, as my business started expanding across the country, how cool would it be to be able to go out and see clients for day trips and be home the same day, or maybe see a client in multiple cities in the same day? Like, what could that accomplish for our business, and also feed into those dreams and goals that I had? So I walked into a flight school about, I think, 14 years ago, and I asked for one of the, I asked for the meanest, crustiest flight instructor they had, because I respond to that. I'm from the generation at my age that responds to that. I don't know that everybody responds to that, but I do. And I got hooked up with a guy that's now become a close friend of mine, and we started the journey, Flying Piper Warriors.
That's cool.
14 years ago.
That's very cool.
Yes, we did.
We can't lose sight of the dream that's aviation as well, right? I mean, it becomes so much of a business focus, which is appropriate
For sure.
But there's this other element that those of us that are fortunate enough to be pilots and utilize aviation, there is a dream part that we shouldn't
Yes, there is.
ever let go of that concept. And how have you been able then to leverage aviation into your business and growing your business?
So as we've expanded our client base across the country, I believe we're in headquartered here in Overland Park, Kansas, but I believe we have clients in something like 38 states. And so right off the bat, you could see how important it would be, even in the world we live in today, post-COVID, where Zoom-type meetings are more available to folks. Everybody seems to know how to do those, and that's nice. Still looking at somebody in the eye, sitting across the table like we are at this very moment, is still very powerful. And in our firm, we deal with people's life savings. So folks have entrusted us to be the stewards of their life savings and walk alongside them through the joys and the pains and the trials of life. So to be able to get in that airplane and be out to see clients, let them know how important they are to us. They see you came to see us, you took the time to come to see us. A lot of folks might think that, well, a client might wonder, you're flying privately, and maybe they have different thoughts about what that might mean. My experience has been clients have been honored and grateful that we would get in our aircraft at our time and expense and take the time to come see them. In our industry, if it's done right, we're what's called the fiduciary investment firm, a registered investment advisor, and that means we have our clients' best interests always at the front, all times and in every situation. And so that's such a privilege for us. I tell them, never forget what a privilege it is to be able to sit down with a family that's entrusted us with their life savings, to partner with them on the journey. When I engaged you and your team to help me with one of the largest transactions that I'll ever make in my life.
Right.
Very similar, trusting and acknowledging and delegating that to you all. So I originally thought you were a transactional business, and what I've come to realize is it's incredibly a relationship business, as we've been on the path together for 10 years.
Hopefully this is the way that you saw the entire jetAVIVA team approach your process, from the sale of your Bonanza, your first airplane,
Yes.
to the then the acquisition of your Meridian,
Yes.
and then the sale of your Meridian,
Yes.
and then into
2 days, by the way.
there. That's right. I
Yes.
love it.
Took you 2 days.
Took us 2 whole days.
Yeah.
Sorry, so long.
That's right.
And then into the PC-12 NGX. From my standpoint, we talked a lot about it, and here on the table we've got a Phenom, and we also have your Meridian, your exact Meridian.
Yes.
But the Phenom is here also as a representation of part of that conversation,
Yes.
right? Of what are you trying to do with your life?
That's right.
What are you trying to do with your business, which is part of your life?
That's right.
And then what are all of the options out there in the aviation world that the jetAVIVA expertise can bring to the table for that consideration and for that discussion? And maybe down the road, those might be appropriate.
Right.
But for right now, the PC-12 NGX was the most appropriate, tool for getting the job done that you need to grow your business and
Yes.
grow your goals in life. So very similar to what you're talking about, your clients, what I really work to do is sit down and say, what are you trying to get done in life?
Of course.
And then let's talk about business.
Yes.
And all the while, that cool underpinning of aviation, which is just a special breed and special place to begin with. And how can we wrap all of that together?
The ability for you all to come in with the expertise, the market research, the experience. I mean, your experience, you personally, but I know it's not just about Tim White or any one person, just like Keene is not
The
about
entire team.
Bill Keene.
Right.
It's about the amazing team we have at our respective firms.
Yeah.
But the knowledge that you all had at the very beginning to say, wait a second, let's take a step back. Let's look at what your mission is. Let's look at what you need this aircraft to do for you. Let's look at how many souls on board. Let's look at a lot of different things.
Right.
Not and not just mission related, but operating cost related. So many things that went into even just this part of the discussion before you even went to market to try to find a selection for me. As far as passengers that we could load on and distances we could go, the NGX, by far beat it. So for right now in my life, with 80% of my missions being regional, there was no question that was likely going to be the answer. But one thing I would say about that process, and now we're just talking about the initial phases of evaluating what we might want to do next in the journey. Mm-hmm. Why the Meridian wasn't fitting the bill at that time. We owned it for a number of years. It's a wonderful aircraft.
It fit the bill when we got you into it.
Amazing. Yeah, it worked out really, really well. One of the things that I also experienced was the professionalism and the communication. So the responsiveness and the proactiveness of your team, whether that was you, or whether it was Jason, or whether it was some of the folks in your accounting department, your finance department,
Contracts.
the contracts department. Hey, when it came to selling aircraft, in the marketing department. So the idea that you all would create a package, a full marketing package with some of the most professional photography and video that I've ever seen anywhere in any business. And the promotion, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, the Meridian sold in 2 days, I believe.
Right.
And we weren't pressured to have to sell it before the other aircraft was purchased, but it did. It sold in 2 days, and away we went.
Right.
Went down and met with one of your salespeople and the new owner, and had a great little session, and off he went. So look at that, the simplicity. For me. Now, it's not simple. Please don't think that it's not. I'm talking,
Right.
For me, it's simple. For you, it's complex. One of the values that you all bring is you simplify complexity for your client. You protected me. You protected me in a lot of different ways. Like we said, whether it was the maintenance pedigree, whether even getting into the right aircraft was a protection that you provided for me. Looking at what this next one will sell for many, this number of years down the road. Making sure that the contracts are written correctly, who pays for what discrepancies, who can get out of the transaction, and for what reasons along the journey. The other thing I would like to compliment you on is that you only included me when you needed to, and you handled so many of these issues behind the scenes that I've kind of learned about as the transactions have gone on. You never bothered me with.
Good.
You told me after the fact, this is what we were dealing with. Didn't even want to alert you to it or create anxiety.
Right.
This is how we took care of it. And so for me, whatever the fee was, whatever your commission was, for you to make all this happen for me, somewhere around a third of the way through the transaction,
Right.
a third, I realized that fee is worth a multiple of whatever it is. That fee was not an expense. That fee was an investment. That's how I look at it with you all. You all are thought leaders in your industry. You and your team, every time I turn around, you're on a podcast, you're at a convention, you're giving a talk, you're holding events, you're at Oshkosh, you've hosted us there in the past. You're out there in the community with your relationships, providing education, which I think is super important. Being a thought leader in your industry, I spotted it 10 years ago, and it's just gotten more and more. When I would show up to these other providers that you mentioned and say that, hey, I'm working with jetAVIVA, I've got a long-term relationship with them, this is my fourth transaction, or however I introduce myself to them, or I'm good friends with Tim and the team there, I instantly had that same elevated level of response from that other provider, whether that was an insurance company, a finance company, if that was needed, a management company, maintenance facility, you name it. Anytime I said that I was a client of jetAVIVA, this was very real. I felt like I was responded to differently. I was taken more seriously by those outside providers, and possibly even given more of a concierge experience, knowing that, hey, I've been in the game, I've got proper representation as meaning jetAVIVA standing, representing me. Mm-hmm. And so that was about as powerful as it could be. I mean, that was a huge aspect to the benefit, to the peace of mind, to me delegating those things to you all.